Welcome to today's episode of the Capstone Conversation. I'm your host, Jared Asch. Today we are diving into GovTech solutions. How is AI transforming the efficiency in local and state government across the country? Today we are joined by two founders and CEOs of their company, John Kokot from Civic and Roger Lynn from Legislaide. Welcome, gentlemen. Appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks, Jared. Appreciate it.
John, tell us a little bit about your background and give us a brief overview of what the company and the product does, and then we'll have Roger do the same.
Yeah, I was in the Navy for 10 years. I was a helicopter pilot for 6, and then I spent 3 years working on Capitol Hill for Navy's Office of Legislative Affairs in the Senate. Then finished my career, was the airport director on an aircraft carrier before getting my MBA from Wharton and starting Civic in fall of 2024. And we set out to solve at Civic the problem of correspondence, the messy inbox, handling service requests and casework from end to end, and making sure none of the data, none of the potential positive outcomes for constituents fall through the cracks. Yeah, that's what we're doing at Civic. We currently have 3 LOIs from offices on Capitol Hill, are evaluating with 6 different state legislatures, talking to multiple cities, and also talking with a few federal agencies to implement our platform, Civic Revere, across the country.
Great. And Roger?
Yeah, no, super impressive. My experiences, I started my career helping during COVID, helping small, medium businesses in Puerto Rico to generate online revenue because of the COVID shutdown. They were killing businesses. And after that, I joined Amazon for a while. And after Amazon, I started Legislaide. We were one of the first in the world that used an AI to draft legislation, and it actually ended up passing. So now the main problem that we're solving is that state law changes every single year, and local laws simply aren't keeping up. So that means there's a lot of hidden local law, non-compliant local laws that are out there that people don't know about. And we are there to detect them and help local governments update them before other bad players finds them. And because these non-compliant local laws are all potential legal liabilities or having local governments missing out on revenue opportunities. So this is a really big hidden problem, and now we're just uncovering it. So yeah, it's a very exciting space to be in and very relevant to the community that we live in. So yeah, very excited to be here.
And so, Roger, just so I understand, is the city your customers and it's helping them streamline changes to state laws that they need to then comply with? Okay.
Yes. Our clients are local governments, and we essentially help them update their local laws in order to be compliant with the state law changes.
Got it. Okay, so one of the things I keep harping on to cities, and John, you and I have talked about this, is how can AI tools such as those from both of your companies help make city workers, special districts, legislators, how can this help them be more efficient, not take away their jobs, not threaten their jobs, but be more productive as a tool for them? Roger, maybe if you could start and then John.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, every single change that the state law mentions, it is completely depends on the context of each community. Within our software, what we do is we flag the issue, but based on the context of the city staff, planners, city attorneys, city managers, clerks, gets to decide if that's an issue or not, or how they want to resolve the issue. So domain expertise is fully involved in the process of updating their local code. So what we're just trying to do is to streamline the parts that can be streamlined, like research, drafting, compliance review, and preparing for the materials for the codification. And we're not a codifier either. We really want to rely on the experiences and domain expertise of local government staff.
John?
Yeah. And so what we found is that at city, state levels of government, there are a lot of disparate applications that people are using across. You've got your inbox, Outlook, or Google, your calendar, your spreadsheets for tracking your CRM and database, maybe SurveyMonkey, Constant Contact, MailChimp. You've got all these different applications that you use to maintain both constituent communications, but also tracking service requests from start to finish. There are obviously a lot of other players in this space, but what we found is that being an integration first platform enables you to collect all of that data into one platform, ours, which is called Civic Revere, and then use AI to do a lot of functions across the workflow, from intake and categorization and selecting different topics, different issues into folders that can then be routed to the right staff members of a team, to helping draft responses that are actually tailored and customized to constituent requests instead of constituents often receiving maybe generic letters. And at the same time, being able to use a natural language chat feature. So we'll call it an internal chat bot that you can use to ask questions against the entire context of your office. So a question might be, when was the last time we met with John Doe? And that's something you would have to go look in your calendar, look back through your inbox, maybe find some meeting notes that you kept on a notepad or on a document in your computer. And now what you can do is ask that question against the Civic platform in the whole context of your office and be able to retrieve that nearly instantly, as well as auto-generating meeting briefs for upcoming meetings and other functions that really take a lot of time out of a staff member's day that can be done more efficiently and actually more effectively by leveraging the entire context of your data room.
And a lot of government agencies are concerned with privacy. Having a third party control their data, protecting the integrity of that data and of constituents. Can you both address that? And what are some thoughts that they should consider? Both how your companies do it and what should government agencies know about in protecting their data?
Yeah, Roger, I'll kick it off. I'll be quick here. So how we've designed the system is to be basically closed architecture, all contained within Amazon Web Services. So AWS, all of our models run locally within each segmented instance of a user. And all the models that are leveraged are on AWS Bedrock. And so that enables us, all those models are cloned instances of the original model. So none of the data is being used to train. Of course, we ensure that all data is owned and retained by our client, the office, and none of that is used, of course, on our end as at Civic for training or any other purposes. And so that's how we've really architected our system in our company. And I think that's been quite effective. And it really ensures that offices can feel safe and that their data is not being, let's say they were using another foundation model, the data that they're putting into that is not being, released into open source, not going back to train foundation models that could be potential leak.
Yeah. And John has a very comprehensive approach to privacy, and especially that you manage the inboxes. The privacy is one of the most important things. For us, we look at it a little differently. Obviously, we have the default, hey, no data that goes into our model goes into a public training database, so no one can access it. But for us, what we're really processing are all public data. These are public laws that gets passed, and these are all online as public resources. And the problem that we're really solving here is things that people can't see yet. As in, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars of legal liability. Millions of dollars are missing out on revenue, grant money that local governments just don't even know about. And the biggest problem that we see is that this has never been on top of many people's mind. If you ask any local government staff or agency, hey, is updating your code on top of your priority list? It's not. And it's because no one has been after them on these issues. And no one's really looking at thousands of pages comparing to tens of thousands of pages. That is something that is extremely difficult for humans to do very comprehensively. So historically, there's a lot of city attorneys that look at these data and they don't look at it comprehensively. A lot of normal practices have been, oh, this city changed this specific law because of this state law change. Therefore, I copy paste into my local law, because no one was able to actually humanly do a comprehensive code review. So now AI is able to do this. It's not just us that can recognize these legal gaps. There are a lot of other companies that can also detect legal gaps. And we're the first one here, and we want to make sure that local government are able to fix these gaps before the bad players finds them. And it is actually no knowledge that there are AI companies specifically out there trying to find class action lawsuits and trying to help plaintiff law firms to find class action lawsuits and plaintiffs to make that easier for these law firms. So these are all very important things that local government needs to worry about, because when local government gets sued, it's not just reputation that they're losing, they're taking a huge financial hit and operational. Because in the background, when a lawsuit happens in the discovery process, that is a city clerk or a city that needs to hire multiple staff to retrieve every single record about this specific topic. And they have to go through every single one, redact every single one. So it's a huge operational toll and financial toll on the local government. And I don't think any local government would like lawsuits. That is the problem that we're solving. And at the state level, I think a lot of state law changes, this state legislature doesn't really notice that local laws are not reflecting the changes that they've been discussing every single year as well. So it's a very relevant issue across the United States. And this is really the first time that AI touches this subject. And yeah, we want to make sure that local law does keep up to date, because it is an extremely time-consuming process and resource-intensive process.
I think that's really interesting. I want to pull out that part about what the law firms are doing and how they're using AI. It's almost needs to become a protective mechanism right now for compliance to starve off these lawsuits. I can't say it's okay, the criminals are advancing technology, so law enforcement needs to here, but you're creating liability for yourself here. It sounds, because the other side is arming themselves faster, waiting for you to trip up. Is my illustration right on there and what you're seeing, Roger?
Could you say the question another way?
Yeah, so it's like the law firms are looking to take advantage and are using AI tools to do research at a much faster clip to vet to see if cities are in compliance. And so if cities aren't complying at a faster rate than they ever have before, they're opening up liability for it, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. I know a lot of cities in California right now are dealing with, or actually across the country, are dealing with compliance on accessibility, and that the Justice Department has deadlines around vision impairment and is enforcing vision impairment, document accessibility, hearing accessibility. And I think it was as of maybe April 1st or May 1st, cities of over 500,000 had to be compliant. But now it's going to start rolling out to cities 100,000 and then smaller in the next year. And so this sort of fits into that compliant mold, right?
Yeah. And traditionally, these are the issues that people look at, the big issues like gun control, sanctuary cities. But now there's a lot more normal issues that are being surfaced. For example, parking citations, the contest of parking citations being extended, and cities don't know that. And that's liability. Even small issues like that. In Washington, there's a public safety grant that's $100 million from the Washington legislature. And the local government needs to comply in terms of their policy in order to apply for this grant and the tax increase. So, these are all of things that we could help with. And right now, because it's humans are doing this, it's really hard to read line by line and reference specifically to the state code sections or policies that they need to comply by. It's a very difficult, time labor intensive work. So that's why, like, I think machine is perfect for this kind of work.
John, do you want to build on that at all?
So I would say, as far as being able to quickly synthesize changes in legislation, that is a component of our platform. As far as, this is more at the state level and federal level. We're certainly not doing what Roger's doing as far as understanding local level statutes, but our platform does enable a staffer to really quickly reference, if it's at their state legislature.gov website, or if it's in Congress, congress.gov, be able to pull the original bill text, be able to pull the historical context, plus the different talking points on the politics side, and really have those at their fingertips. That's a component that we do offer.
Yeah. And John, I really see you as a communications tool in some way. Is you are helping streamline and provide data and mapping even to requests coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say a resident or a constituent messages about a certain topic or even a piece of legislation at the state level. Our system already has an underlying taxonomy for all those topics. And if a team has mapped out, okay, who are the people who are the owners of those different folders, whether it's potholes or signage, or whether it's HR 1000, our system will categorize and route those to the right person, making that triage function a lot easier. And then also give them the tools to more quickly research the topic at hand and generate a response and actually initiate if it's related to a service request or casework, initiate that case. And then additionally, having all the underlying or the associated agency contacts, local, state, national level agencies, having those contacts in the system and really easing that process of commencing the communication and then managing that. And where we're going is actually phase 2 for the platform is actually taking that to the agentic level. And so keeping the human in the loop at all times, but at the same time managing AI agents who can be essentially caseworkers to actually increase the throughput and the volume of service requests that can be completed.
Yeah. And to add on to what John's saying, what John is working on is actually usually the top of the list for a lot of local government staff, because their priority is to make sure that they provide good service to the citizens, residents in their community. This is why John's platform is extremely important, and to respond to residents. And because happy residents means more residents wants to move to this community and wants to contribute more value to the community. And that's why really doing legal analysis of your code was never on top of people's list. And that means there's a ton of local government. And we talked to a lot of local government staff, city attorneys. A lot of them cannot confidently say that all their codes are up to date. Almost none of them have said that all their codes are confidently up to date. And we've actually done some proactive scans across municipal codes against state codes. Unfortunate to say that most local governments in the United States have outdated post sections, are in current legal liability. Hopefully what John is working on is really important. And what we're working on is something that is it's very foundational. And both of us are working on very foundational things for the community here.
If you're talking to a government official, what top concerns did they have just about AI, doing air quotes here for those just listening? What are they saying they're concerned with for AI and adopting this software and in any capacity?
I'm happy to
Yeah.
take that one first, Roger, and then pass it over to you.
Yeah.
There have been, I would say, a handful of concerns. I think the main one is the fidelity of, I would say, AI responses. And we haven't I think one of the cases that comes up a lot in conversation is the public facing chatbot. And we have not delved into that arena yet because I think there's a ton of liability that comes with that. And there are a lot of edge cases and almost an endless amount of edge cases that are really problematic for a public facing chatbot. So we've kept that internal. And that's one of, I would say, the sort of structural safeguards that we have to that basically only internal staff are running the AI systems. But then another one is in the fidelity of answers. One of the functions of our platform is helping generate responses, doing the initial research on an incoming message to help quickly respond accurately and effectively to that. And I think one of the concerns there is certainly, okay, is the data that we're getting accurate? And I actually think that's one of the advantages of our system is that if you ask us, let's say one of the core foundation models, which doesn't have necessarily a prescribed context of government and of your office, you're basically turning to the ocean of information to try to find an answer. Whereas our system is much more pointed on your internal data as well as open source that is germane to government, to local, state, and federal sort of topics and legislation. And I think I would say one of the advantages of ours is providing that accuracy in answers. And yeah, Roger, you got anything?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. We started Legislaide in 2023 when essentially a few months after ChatGPT came out. And initially, people don't really understand AI that much, especially local government staff who every single day they're doing stuff that are much more manual, a lot more close to human. And so there was a lot of misconceptions about what AI is in 2023, 2024. And when we were going out there, but at the end of last year, around 2025 and 2026, this is when we start talking to local government folks. They gain a lot more trust and they've gotten a lot of education from organizations, municipal leagues, other city managers, ICMA, and every conference I went to in 2024 and 2025, probably 1/3 of their events as AI for local government and for different roles. And it was really interesting to see how people are getting more educated on the concept of AI. And like now I talk to local government staff. I'm like, oh, have you used ChatGPT before? 2 years ago? No, haven't. And everyone now, default answer is yes. Oh yeah, I've also used Claude. Well, I've also used Gemini. And it was really impressive to see how everyone is starting to adopt these tools. And in 2023, 2024, one of the biggest phrases was that one of the biggest fear from local government staff was that, hey, I don't want AI to replace me. In fact, I was talking to one of my first demos was with a local government staff from a labor union. And we got on the meeting. It was very much, oh, you're AI. And he just stopped paying attention to us. It was literally looking to the side. It was like, I won't say, but it felt a little bad to be disregarded like that. But these days, in the private sector saying is that if you're not going to use AI, you're going to get replaced by someone who's using AI. And this is a very interesting topic for us as well, because what we do is we're essentially reviewing local laws and updating local laws that impacts everyday life for anyone that lives in a city. And it's funny that most citizens have no idea what their local laws are. And it impacts the roads we drive on to the school our children goes to. And these policy decisions needs to be made by a human. Humans are the ones that listens to resident feedbacks and wants to actually create benefit and contribute value for the community. And so human in the loop is very built into our entire process because it's very important. And public engagement is also very important. So yeah, generally the concept of AI has evolved drastically in the past few years. And I think looking forward, we're not just going to be looking at AI anymore. Every single business is going to be using AI and they're not going to say that because it's going to be so integrated with every single process within businesses, within every function. Anthropic and OpenAI just announced an AI service firm. As in, they would partner up with private equity firms that have purchased HVAC companies or construction companies throughout the throughout the United States, there's all types of companies that private equity companies own. And essentially, Anthropic, which is Claude and OpenAI, are going into these private equity firms and partnering up with these small, medium-sized businesses that they've acquired and implement AI into every single processes. So now AI is already default in all the businesses and all the functionalities. What is next? The next, in my opinion, is robots. And how are we going to deal with that? That's a huge change to how cities going to work. Because I think 10 years ago, there was you only have 3 to 30 electronic devices in your homes. I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to have 3,000 electronic devices in our homes and maybe robots roaming the streets. And they are already. These robots are delivering food, drones are delivering groceries. Anyways, I think I'm going too far here, but Jay, go ahead.
No, Sam Altman said it would save a lot of power for the world if you stop saying please and thank you into ChatGPT. He's the CEO and founder there. But you know what? I have this irrational fear, I might edit this part out, that eventually it will become Skynet. And so I at least want to be on its good side.
Yeah.
Every guy of the right generation understood that joke. But I think you're right. People have come in here and have talked about how 40% of your day already, if you are a typical white collar professional job, could incorporate AI to make you more efficient. And the jobs that are being let go, I'll even just talk about the robot example, is what are they going to do? They're going to come and sweep the sidewalk. So sweep the robots. I'm talking to a company that are building robots to sweep sidewalks. That's not the job that a lot of people really want in today's day and age. So could that person now become a robot repair person? They're going to get paid more for their value. And so the goal, I think you're saying in here, is how can we incorporate this technology into what you're doing to make those workers more efficient? And John, you laid that out really well. And just, hey, a constituent wrote in 15 times about fire safety. So if we have a bill we're creating about fire safety, are we proactively letting this constituent know about that? Right? And this is a way to track it without tying up bandwidth to your staff, but making them more effective. John, you want to keep building on where we're going here?
Yeah, exactly. We're finding, to go back to the street sweeper example, or if we were to go further back, at one of the references I really appreciate is from, I think it was around 1905, early 1900s was when the Treasury adopted counting machines, and everyone freaked out because one, it was, I guess, replacing that job, but at the same time, people thought there's no way that a machine could ever count as well as a human. And obviously we found that's pretty ridiculous in 2026. And I think the functions that we are automating within an office, that process of the initial intake and reading, the metadata tagging to constituent profiles, the sorting, that's taking up a huge amount of time with state legislatures and congressional offices, and especially in large cities as well, where they have significant amount of resident inbound. And that's a job. In automating a lot of that, you free up time for those staff members to actually focus on higher priority, higher, I would say, intelligence tasks that are actually also more rewarding and and I'm pretty confident in saying that it improves the quality of life for staff to be able to leverage these tools. And it also improves, I would say, on the other end in receiving, if you're able to notify a constituent. Right now, there's just a massive amount of data at all levels of government that isn't really being leveraged. Updating someone on something that's happened in their neighborhood based on 311 complaints, or just basically sending out notifications based on certain activities, certain updates within the city on someone's block. That's data that's really tough to manage. And that's an amazing task for AI, is to be able to synthesize all that data. Where does this person live? Have they previously contacted us? What do they care about? Putting all that together and then being able to send tailored messages to people is, I think, really powerful.
Yeah. And it's not just tailored messages. I think when I was throughout my years of engaging with local government folks, the most the best stories I've heard are always folks getting an inquiry through phone or email, and they show up physically at their home to help them. Oh, okay, let me move this tree for you. Oh, you got a noise complaint from the neighbors. Yes, we're not legal. It's legally okay, but I'm going to go knock on doors for you to talk to them. And these are the things that really AI cannot take away and robot cannot take away. It's the human touch. It's the strategic thinking on what do you use, how do I think this solution can be solved in a human way? And that's something that AI and robots would never be able to take away. And I want to add a little bit on top of this. We've never intended for AI to replace human work. However, don't quote me on this. This is a conversation I got from last week at a conference. There was the clerk in Texas that have said the following. There are guidance from some organization, from the manager level, saying that they need to evaluate every single new staff that they're going to hire and see if there are AI tools out there that could potentially do their work. So that means they have to evaluate AI tool before making a new hiring decision. And that's a very scary place to be because I've been in the GovTech space for quite a bit, not city clerks. These local government folks are dealing with residents all day. They don't know what use cases are out there. And now, one of the most important thing for local government, which is making sure that there is human connection, that decision is being tempered. I don't know. I don't support this sort of guidance, but I think this is something that local government folks definitely need to start thinking about and prepare for, because this is a huge hit. This is a huge hit. It might start in Texas, but it might have started somewhere else. So yeah, that's what I'm going to say on this topic.
Yeah. John first, and then Roger, walk us through a use case. We're talking about efficiency, data. Walk us through an example of how your products have been utilized and will make somebody more efficient or solve a solution.
Yeah, so I'll take the 311 complaint example. Someone calls or submits a complaint on 311 right now. That's a system. It's quite robust. I would say it is powerful and useful, but it is in the case of New York City where we're running a pilot right now. That data goes into a database that is full of thousands and thousands of requests, resolved, unresolved, and the loop is not closed there. You don't really have any recourse to then complete the next step, which is to say to the residents in that neighborhood where there is, say, a failing sidewalk that needs to be repaired. What our system does is it can take those 311 requests. We have an entire module for this. Those requests come in. We have a constituent database for people that live in that neighborhood. The user of our platform can then connect that request to the neighborhood, send notifications to residents within that neighborhood, track it from start to finish, say, okay, here's the issue in process. It's now complete. And now outbound to these people saying, this is what the city did. And is there any follow-up that you would like from your city? So closing that loop and then taking that to the next level, we can actually map, I'll say one thing we're exploring right now are flooding, pluvial events in a city. There are people reporting flooding after storms on 311 saying there's flood water here, need help. We can actually map in a city with all those requests. We can map where the floods are happening and actually help cities detect for future rain events where flooding is likely to occur, how that flooding is evolving over time, and better prepare cities in that way, leveraging data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Before Roger goes, I want to share, I was talking to a congressional office and they say they get so many complaints that aren't even geared towards their office because people just know their congressman or their city. So they don't know, oh, that's a county issue, or, oh, that's the sanitation district, which is a special district thing. And some cities have their water district in trash. Others, it's different how it's organized. And so that's interesting. It also just allows them to track that and pass off the request, but not brush off the constituent, right? Because they're not just a customer, they're a voter. So Roger, go ahead with your use case here.
Yeah, we want to break this very labor intensive process and time consuming process down to a very simple 3-step process. So number 1 is diagnosis. Number 2 is amendment. And third is tracking. So diagnosis, we essentially takes the new state legislations, we compare against the municipal code, and it flags all the sections that needs to be updated or just have compliant issues. Local government staff could take a look at it and see they want to resolve it, how they want to resolve it, and that's the resolution part of the process. And lastly is tracking, because what we found is that because we're going to find a lot of hidden issues that have never been uncovered before, it oftentimes warrants co-rewrite. And that co-rewrite is going to, a local government essentially is going to see a lot of local codes being changed. And for a local government that have not gone through that for a long time, usually 5 to 10 years or so, they're going to be pretty overwhelmed. So we want to really make that process easy for them. So we do provide a tracking system that helps them manage and see who is working on what code section, because everyone is working on the code section. The planning department is working on the housing, and then the public works is working on the recreation, the park section. A lot of moving parts within local government needs to be tracked. So that's what we do. And to go back and touch on the amendment section, what we do is prepare the materials drastically faster. For every single code section, the materials that usually requires is the ordinance, the amended code section as in the proposal, and lastly, the staff report / memo that supports, hey, what kind of research did I do on the ordinance, the reason why that we're doing this. And these materials usually take weeks, if not months to do. So we are able to produce that within 10 minutes of you sitting in front of a computer. And then after that comes the hardest part. After you have all those materials, you can go to the council and actually trying to discuss these issues with the council members. And what's interesting about that is usually the most time-intensive process, because there's a lot of back and forth with the council members on these changes, because these are policy ideas, policy changes that actually impacts people's daily lives. But when we first started in 2023, one of the biggest thing I learned was that the legislative process to pass a law takes 6 to 18 months for one single law. That's why a lot of local governments don't pass a lot of laws, if you actually look into it. And the extended legislative process makes people feel like, oh, local government doesn't change. I'm going to have a problem and they're not going to address it for a year or two. And I think when we get into that mode of, hey, we're discovering issues that we've never discovered before, and we now have 5 code sections that we need to change, and we're submitting to council. Council will very much look at not just one single issue anymore and discuss for months. They're going to be looking at 5 different issues in one session. And okay, we're in problem solving mode. Let's get this through so that we stop incurring legal liability. So it adds so much urgency to what we're doing. And I think a more accelerated legislative process, yes, it has its risks, but also it will reflect on daily lives on, hey, local governments are changing and they're trying to be better for the residents, or yeah. So yeah, that's what I'll say on that.
Great. All right. Last simple question, John, and then Roger. How do people learn more about your company and connect with you guys?
So our website is get-civic.com. We have a lot of information on there on the solutions and use cases. I'm at john@get-civic.com.
Great. And Roger?
All right. Our company name is Legislaide. It's LEGSLAIDE. And my email is roger@legislaide.com. So yeah, look us up.
Great. I appreciate you both being here. John Kokot from Civic and Roger Lin from Legislaide. Appreciate you guys and your insights into how technology is evolving local government.
Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, Jared.
Appreciate the time.
Yeah, appreciate the conversation. Thanks for the input, John.